Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Welcome, everyone. I am, of course, Sandee Byrd. This is Emotional Elevator, and I am on Inspired Choices Network. And before I dive into my topic tonight about what does independence mean to you, I'm going to talk a little bit about why and who do I specialize helping. So I specialize with helping people who have suffered. And when I say trauma I've mentioned before can be those false beliefs and thoughts that we have about ourselves. If you were ever in elementary school and you got bullied, that's a trauma. So that's the people I specialize with because I help you start healing or letting go of those false beliefs, thoughts, and feelings you have about yourself. And I also am basically a severe trauma coach because I know what it's like to have gone through severe trauma, such as gang rape, being physically, mentally abused by someone you love, a parent. I was raised in an alcoholic household. I've also had some trauma put on my own children, but that's their story to tell. And my daughter one night is going to come on here with me, and we are going to unravel a lot of it on the show. So that's what I specialize in, and it's working with everyone. And as I tell people too, some of my specialty is about redeveloping yourself and also working on those over 50, 50 and fabulous, letting go of the 50 years of the bullshit that we've dealt with, those false beliefs, those false feelings, that shifts that we want to make in our life. And I also work with people who are letting go of all that, but now have to care for possibly a parent. And once you start shifting from, oh, I'm an empty nester, I'm going to go travel the world, I'm going to do this, my marriage is over, or I'm in a new relationship, which is healthy. And then all of a sudden you realize you have a parent that you need to care for. I work a lot with that as well, because that is what 50 and Fabulous is all about. It's about taking that next step because sometimes the kids move out and then the parents have to move in, and it's challenging. I have been fortunate enough, and I know this sounds bad, both my parents have deceased, but I do care for my mother-in-law. She does not live with us, but I do go over there and care for her at 100 and a half. And that was a challenge for me now over 50. But I work with people who want to also work on themselves, who want to figure out what is my purpose in life. I've been floundering and I want to know what my purpose is, Sandee. I've got tools to help you with that. I've got tools to find out what your values are and not the values that have been forced on you. So that's what I specialize in. I specialize in anything from, the severe trauma to just the trauma that people don't realize is body image, bullying, not feeling accepted, money, money issues. And I have been blessed to work with a coach that really had me dive into what my hangup was around money and the worthiness of my value. So I specialize in that. So we're going to talk tonight about what does independence mean to you? So first, I'm going to give you the definition of independence. It is the state of wanting or being able to do things for yourself and make your own decisions without help or influence from others. Now think about that. It's a state of wanting or being able to do things for yourself and make your own decisions without help or influence from other people. How many people want to be independent in their life? And how many of us are still trapped not being independent? How many of us still follow the religious background and don't necessarily believe it because I am one of those. Grew up in a household of a certain political party. I don't agree with that. And now I'm independent. I am an independent person. And a lot of the people I work with, this is one of the main topics. All the other topics encompass independence. We want to break free from these cycles. We want to have that being of doing things and making our own decisions because there is a lot. And I can tell you, in my 40s, I was still a little bit codependent on an alcoholic mother in my 40s. But now in my 50s, I am clearly independent. And that's what I specialize in with people is breaking all these change, all these traumas, all these generational curses, all this codependency, all the whatever you're dependent on or your addiction. Because if we can break and become independent, most of us, our addictions would go away, our physical ailments would go away, our thinking for ourselves will come clear and what we believe, what our values are, and not what everybody else's values are. So, tonight, like I said, what does independence mean to you? What is controlling your mind? And are you being controlled by your thoughts, beliefs, or feelings? And how can you break free from the independent? And this is exactly what tonight's topic is. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, but clients and the breakthroughs that they have when they finally realize I can be independent. And what I don't mean when I start talking about this is, oh my gosh, let me, quit being a mom. Let me quit being a daughter. Oh, my husband, I don't like his views or his beliefs. So screw him. I'm done. It's not that. That's not what I'm telling you to do. What I'm telling you is to start thinking for yourself. If you have been taught, which a lot of us have been, if you have been in around faith-based, yes, I'm probably going to bring this up because was raised in a very Christian atmosphere and put yourself last. Women come last. You got to care for your husband and your children. And you know what? Everyone else comes first. And I think I should have realized that that was bullshit. And I said it, excuse the language. When I was a kid and my parents I lived in Virginia, my dad lived in Florida, and my family lived in New Jersey. I flew on an airplane all the time, and they always said, put the face mask on first. And that's why many people in healing now talk about self care first. You've got to care for yourself first. But that's fine and dandy. Care for yourself first. I do a lot of self care for myself. I do silent retreats. But the problem is, if you don't change your mindset and you don't change what you think about yourself or believe about yourself, it doesn't matter all the self care you do, you're not being independent. And yes, it's a hard cycle to break, but when you can break it and you can start thinking for yourself and going, you know what? I really don't like going to Disney World. Why have I always been going to Disney World? I don't like it. Or if you've ever been shamed in your life. And a lot of what I talk about tonight with breaking and being independent and what does it mean to be independent is going to kind of factor into my next week's show, which is breaking generational curses. Because sometimes you have to break those first, and that's next week's topic, to be independent. Because we don't realize how much we are conditioned. And I was talking to someone earlier about when we are in vitro, we're already learning all these conditions. We're already learning beliefs. If your mom, dad, whoever played certain music, you start to realize you really like that music because it's something that you started forming already as a little embryo. You weren't even brought into the world yet. And then you come in the world, and what are we doing? Oh, you should believe this. Oh, you're this, so believe this. Oh, our family believes this. Oh, you can't think for yourself. You can't, you go to school. Oh, no, we do it this way. We don't do it that way. And you're already having to learn a certain way. We are actually become these robots that we don't realize we are. So, when are you going to break through and have that independence? Do you ever sit back watching a movie, watching a show, or listen to someone talk and you're like, where does that come from? And then you start thinking, wait a minute, that's what I think. What, why am I thinking that? What? Hmm. And then you realize I've been thinking a certain way my whole life, but that's not how I want to think. So you've got to break free from that because that is the biggest thing about independence. We all talk about independence, and I kind of did this show because last week here in America was the 4th of July, and that's Independence Day. And we want to be free. And a lot of people, when you say, oh, freedom, I realize, no, I would rather be independent because I'm already free, but I want to be independent. And freedom can be a whole nother subject, but be independent. And some of the biggest breakthroughs with my clients was them realizing I've been thinking this way my whole life, but that's not what I believe. Or think about if you were raised, excuse me, in the church your whole life, you move out, you go to college, and you're like, I'm never going to church again because I don't believe that. But then you start questioning, well, why don't I believe that? What's wrong with me? No, you're starting to break free and think for yourself and become that independent person. We were all meant to be independent. And if you want to quote the Bible, we were all given our own personal fingerprint so that we would be personally our individual self. We would be independent. Nobody else would have that same fingerprint that we have. But yet, are we all really independent? Do we try to force our own views on everybody else? Sometimes, yeah. But that's why this subject is so important to me and with working with my clients. Because first we start out with who is it you want to be? Why do you want to coach? Why are you coming to me? And it's so interesting to see how, because I do have some tools in my toolbox like breath work and hypnosis, where I've taken people onto that journey. Um, I learned hypnosis, and then I realized some people still have taboo because they're not independently thinking for themselves, taboos around hypnosis. So I took on breath work because I have seen people reach the same level of breakthrough through breath work and hypnosis. And what it does is it challenges our thinking by going, that's not who I am. That's not what I think. And to be independent in that thought. Because we're in a world right now that has got such a political, I want to say political game going on. And too many people are like, oh, well, this is the way I was raised. What does that mean? What does that mean? You have to believe this person and you can't fight for this because you were raised this way? How old are you? Are you 5 or are you 55? Because I was raised a certain way, not to believe all these things that as I started working on myself and developing, self developing me through the work I was doing with coaches and people and just diving into what are my values? What is my purpose? What is it that drives me? What is it that drives me every day in my life? I can't believe it is already time for our first break. And if you're listening to me on any other platform, come over here to Inspired Choices Network and join the chat room because I would love for you to be in this chat room on Inspired Choices Network so we can have a conversation. So if there's something that you're thinking, you can have a conversation with me. Or, like I always say, please reach out to me. You can reach out at my website at sandeebird.com or my email, I'm sorry, at sandeebirdcoach@gmail.com. So we are going to go on our first break. And when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about independence. So thank you for joining me tonight.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. I am Sandee Byrd of Emotional Elevator, and you are listening to me on Inspired Choices Network. And if you're on any other platform, make sure you like me or any of the other hosts here on Inspired Choices Network and share it. Share my podcast with a friend if something you feel, if something comes to you, if your intuition says, you know what, my friend Sally would be interested in this because we were just talking about this. But you got to go back and listen because I kind of dove into what independence is and how we are conditioned from the womb to believe in our thoughts and even sometimes the music we like. Think about sometimes we were conditioned to eat food that we really don't like, but it's a cycle that we're afraid to break. You can break it. And like I continue to say, I'm a coach that works with, let me put down, I'm a coach that works with people, not just women anymore, people who are ready to start developing the person they want to be because it's never too late. You're never too old. You're never too young to start being independent, but it's never too late to start realizing I want to start thinking for myself. I want to make decisions for me that serve me and not those around me. And like I already was talking about in the first part of the show, that doesn't mean you get up and you just leave your house and leave your husband. I mean, if that's what, if you've been false and all that about that relationship and everything, that's a different subject. We can definitely talk through that. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be independent. I'm just going to go and, kumbaya, it, live in the forest. But if that's something you've always wanted to do, and that's always been in the back of your head, voice it. You know what? I have always wanted to go live in the mountains. I don't want to live in the city. Voice those opinions because that is stating your independence. And there's no one to blame for your own misery but yourself. And that is where breaking through and being independent, and that's what I love working with so many clients about is I did it. I did it too, just like they do. My mom was this horrible woman and da 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 da. I'm 55. I can't blame her anymore. Can't blame anyone anymore but myself. If I am not thinking for myself, if I am not developing the person who I want to be, that's on me. That's not on my shitty upbringing. That's not on me being raped. That's not on me having lack of self worth or lack of self value. I can reprogram myself. I can reprogram myself to have that self value, that self worth, just like you can. Trust me, if I can do it, if I've been doing it for a good 9 years now, I'm recreating who Sandy Byrd really is and what Sandy Byrd wants out of life. You can too. But that's on you to start doing. I can't force you to become independent because that's not what independence is. But you can force yourself to say, you know what? Sandy's making a point tonight. I have always questioned that. I've always not agreed with that. I've always had this icky feeling about that. Break that cycle, break that thought, break that belief, break the feeling. Be independent. Think, feel for yourself. Question: how can you be independent while still staying in a relationship? You two people can still be independent and be in a relationship because it's not about I'm going to do my own thing, you do your own thing. It's about you thinking what you want to think and believing what you want to believe. My husband and I have very different views, some political, some religious. It's not for me to try to get him to my side, and it's not for him to get me to his side. It's for us when we're together to realize no church and state right now. And we can still love each other. Because if I love myself enough, or if I love myself fully, and he loves himself fully, like we do, we can still love each other. And that's what, yeah, you can be in relationships, you can be with your family. I mean, how many times, think about this, and this is something that a client of mine struggled with. How many times have you been around your family and you don't think the same as they do? And you don't believe the same as they do? And the whole time it's this back and forthness. That's you stating your independence, but not breaking the relationship. It's that good old saying, even in the workplace, bear to differ. Like, we all have that in life. You know what? This is just we got to agree to disagree. And that's exactly how my husband and I sometimes start conversations. Friends of mine and I, we're just not going to get on this subject because you and I both know we have truly different beliefs. We have truly different feelings behind this. I have different thoughts than you have on this. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. Doesn't mean we can't still meet in the middle. And it doesn't mean we don't listen to each other. My husband and I sometimes will have a great Saturday, Sunday mainly, where we'll be in there and it'll be an hour. Well, what did you think about this? I mean, we're in the States. That presidential debate was a debacle. And we both kind of, wow, what about this? What about that? And we were able to see like we both believed the same thing, but we had beliefs about two different people. And that was okay because when you have a good relationship, you're going to have differences. But when you just kind of, I can't speak up to my husband because, yes, you can, because then you are being a codependent in a relationship. When you don't have your own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs in a relationship, you are in a codependent because you don't feel you're valued enough, you're worthy enough to think differently. And that's what independence is. And that's what starts healing. That to me is almost like the first step of healing is figuring out what false things do I think? When did they start? And how can I break the cycle? Prime example, a client of mine definitely had a false belief, did not have a false belief, had a religious debate and debacle with her family. And she's like, every time I go around, well, then why do you go around and want to start having that debate? Why even challenge if they're not going to change and put yourself into that situation if you know, well, I want them to change. I want them to come to my side. Yeah, but you don't want to go to their side. So just claim your independence, and it's okay. It's these false beliefs around money and abundance. Claim your independence and say, you know what? I believe I can be abundant. It's usually a lot of I get people in their 40s and 50s that want to work with me is it's claiming their independence around abundance and around something that they believe their whole life. And I can never amount to anything. Break free of that. Become independent. Who told you that? Who made you believe that? And why are you still believing it within yourself? Break that tie that they have on you or you have on yourself because it's all up here. It's all in your mind. It's in your mind and break it. Break that cycle. Wave the flag. Claim the independence in it because it is a cycle. It's a cycle of lack of. When we all feel lack of self-worth, lack of lack of skills. So with me being a self-development coach and working so many years in management and HR, employee advocates, that is the biggest thing when I'm working with someone and said, I'm never going to go anywhere in life. Why not? Well, I've never gone anywhere yet. Break that cycle, become independent and claim what is yours. What is it you want to do? Well, I can't even get an interview because of my resume. Okay, well, let's sit down. Let me teach you how to rewrite that resume because that's a false sense of belief. How many times have we turned on our cell phones and something's not working right? And what do? Most of the time, we shut it off for a minute and then power it back on. You can do that. You can do that with your brain. You can do that with yourself. You can do that with your body because that's what's claiming independence. So it is time for our second break. You are joining me, Sandy Bird, on Emotional Elevator at Inspired Choices Network. And if you are listening or streaming this from another platform, while we're on break, come over here to Inspired Choices Network and join the chat room so we can have a conversation. But like I always say, reach out to me if you want to have a connection conversation and you're like, you know what? I'm ready to break free. I'm ready to claim my independence because I want everyone to be independent because we can all change the world if we're all independent and we realize these fingerprints are our individual hand stamps, and so is our mind and our body and our experience in life. We weren't just given fingerprints, we were given our own mind, our own body, and our own spirit to be independent. So let's go on this break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about independence.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me tonight on Inspired Choices Network. This is Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator. And I've been talking about breaking free and being independent. And the question was asked, can you be independent and be in a relationship? Absolutely. I am in the best relationship I've ever been in my life with someone who we have different beliefs. We do not discuss church and state because we do because we love to debate each other. But at the same time, we listen actively to the other person. And then the questions are asked. I state, but I'm independent in what I think, feel, and believe. And he's independent on what he thinks, feels, and believes. And this has been one of my specialties as a coach is to start working on becoming independent because when we have suffered severe trauma, like I've keep talking about, like just bullying or like just being laughed at, we start forming false beliefs and thoughts and feelings in ourselves, and we become kind of dependent on those false thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that I'm not going to amount to anything. No one's ever going to listen to what I have to say. No one's going to care what I have to say. I've got nothing worthy to say. And I know that's false because I've talked in front of a group before on my trauma and how I started breaking the cycle. And how I started breaking that cycle was claiming my dependence back, claiming who I chose to be, and teaching my clients start claiming who you want to be. And you can be any age to start that. And even if you're 55, 60, and you're like, you know what? I've spent my whole entire life living a lie. Because if you are not being independent, if you are not independent with yourself, you are living a life of a lie because you're not honoring who you are. And as I keep saying, we were given fingerprints, whether you believe God, source, whatever. We have unique fingerprints. And nobody understands that these unique fingerprints are so we can be independent. So we aren't all walking around as robots. And we can all challenge each other. I know what we think, feel, not bully, not make sure everyone you believe exactly what I believe, but so we can break free and be who we want to be and have our own beliefs, our own thoughts, our own feelings. Because how many, and I love working with clients and they have that first aha moment, and it's like, that's not how I think. That's not what I believe. How many people out there have gone, oh my gosh, I don't believe that. That's an aha moment. And that's why we all are meant to think differently. Unfortunately, I love working with people who have had a false sense of security because of school systems and that kind of system. Because we all don't learn at the same rate, the same way. There is different ways of learning. I mean, there is many different ways of learning, but there are different ways of learning. And that's why even when I was a trainer, a corporate trainer, and wrote training manuals, I made it different for those that are visual, kinetic. Now I'm forgetting the third and fourth one. But anyway, I made sure that when I even trained people, that I tuned into the way they think, the way they process. And the problem is in society and in school, we're forced to believe that we have to process everything a certain way. We don't. And that's what breaking free and sitting down and going, what is it I believe in myself? And that's why we have so many children and adults walking around going, "Ah, I'm never going to amount to anything," because they were forced into a box when they should be in a circle or a square, and they should be in a circle or a triangle. They're because we weren't meant all to be in a square. And that's what claiming your independence is. And I could go on and on and on about all of the challenges out there with claiming your independence. Because as I started talking about, we are in womb and we're already forming what we're supposed to believe, what kind of music we might like if our parents played music to us, or your parents sang to you and you came out and you thought, that's beautiful music. And then you go to listen to someone and you're like, they got a wonderful voice. And then you go, you suck singing, mom. And then they're all offended, or dad, whoever. But that's because we believe, we start forming that in womb and we don't know how to break free from it. And there's so many, I think about this, and if I offend anybody, independence. We should all be named independently. I am so thankful. I always put my foot down with my boys that they were not juniors or anything like that. Because think of the pressure. You are basically putting pressure on a child to perform like somebody else and not be independent, to kind of be dependent on the parent that they're following the footsteps. How many times have you, I mean, I've worked with a client that they were forced into a career because their family were all in this career. And I'm telling you, the career was a doctor. She was a phenomenal doctor. She was a doctor of mine, and we just happened to connect, and kind of that's where the coaching kind of came from. And she told me, she goes, it's because I came from a family of doctors, but I don't like being a doctor. And I'm like thinking, wow, you're how many thousands of dollars in debt? But I'm so proud of her because now she's doing something she loves. She's doing something she loves to do. And it fills her up and it brings her passion and it brings her joy. Because think of it, when you are independent, you are joyful, you're happy, you feel light, you're not feeling all this tension because you're not living a life of a lie. You're living the life you're meant to be. And think about that. How many parents, grandparents, whoever, you need to go in the military, you got to go to college, you got to do this, I want you to be that. And then you get out there and you have $60,000 in debt, $80,000 in debt, 100, like $150,000 in debt, and you want to be a used car salesman because that brings you passion to be out there talking with people and everything, or whatever it is, because you were told this is what you need to do. And I love to hear people when they're in their 30s breaking these cycles, because what really, whenever I'm in a group with women that are over 50, I either like, you know what, 50's fabulous. I don't give a crap. I'm not going to say the word that most of the groups say, but I don't give a crap. It's the three F's over 50. Um, but, and then when I'm like, so what do you want to be now? What do you want to do for the next half of your life? I don't know. Never thought about it. I'm content. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm over 50. How am I going to change? I literally want to walk up and smack the shit out of them because I'm like, you have now, you don't have the kids at home. Sometimes you don't have the spouse around. Do what you want to do. Be the person you've always wanted to be because you're free. And even if the kids are still around, show them what it means to break a cycle and break a thought process and be independent. Because think about the power we have as parents, especially mothers, when our children start to see us recreating who we are and becoming independent. It gives them more independence because I know a lot of people love this to have their kids call them and go, oh my gosh, mom, I'm in a crisis. I'm in a crisis. And I'm like, okay, so what's the crisis? The dog ate us up. What? Take the dog to the vet. What do you mean take the dog to the vet? They ate us up. You take the dog to the, when I hear stories of that, I'm like, are you serious? Like that means your kids have become a little bit codependent on you. I was a codependent child. I didn't think I could do anything. I moved away from where I live to get away from it and try to break a cycle, and I didn't. It took until I was 40 to realize I am an adult. I don't need to care for my parents. I have children of my own that I need to care for. And what did they do? I now see the cycle of, now I'm seeing them breaking it by becoming independent. Some of them have gotten closer to it than other, but watching them be so independent, I got this. I don't need it. And it's so rewarding to see too them come over and be, that's not what I think. That's not what I believe. And then one of them challenging, well, that's not what I think. That's not what I believe. Right now, my oldest and my youngest are having a battle over the way they train their dogs. Well, just because you did your dogs this way, don't tell me how to do my dogs that way because I'm going to do my dogs this way. And I love to hear them call me and say, "Ah, he won't listen to me. She won't listen to me," over training their dogs. But I love to know that they have independent thinking over how they want their dogs to be raised, their dogs to be trained, how to nourish and love their dogs, and how they see their dogs. That is so rewarding for that independence. So it is almost time for our last break. And when we come back, I'm just going to give you some tools to start elevating yourself. There is so many platforms out there and things you can do yourself to go on to find out your values and everything. But we are going to go on our last break, and you have been listening to Sandee Byrd on Inspired Choices Network. This is Emotional Elevator, and thank you for joining me tonight. And reach out to me if you'd like to have a conversation, a connection conversation with me, if you're ready to break the cycle and be independent. So let's go on that last break.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me tonight. I was kind of searching for a little something because I wanted to give you a little tip for how to look up what you think, believe, your values. But anyway, if you're enjoying my show, please give me a 5-star and search for me on any social platform. Of course, I should always be out there for any of my listeners. My name is spelled Sandee. It is not your typical Sandy. It's Sandee. I should be spelling it all along. And Byrd. You would think Byrd is Bird, but no, I am part of the Southern Birds, Byrd. And I would be grateful if getting the information out helps anyone. So by giving me those 5 stars or by sharing this with anyone you know, that is great. Because the only way we're going to elevate ourselves, elevate our emotions, is by having other people involved and having other people listen to this and realize I'm ready to break through with my independence. So the next part of the show, all I'm going to do is start talking about how you can start. If you're not ready to work with a coach, if you're not ready to do the hardcore work, because it is hardcore work, is just what can you do at home? There, you can go on you can Google, how can I figure out my values? How can I figure out my purpose? Sorry. There are so many tools out there to use to figure out what is it that I value. My love languages, I've talked a lot about that. My apology language. Like, there are so many things. You go Google, who am I? And you're probably going to get something. You could probably ask, I'm not going to say her name, starts with an A and ends with an A. Who am I? And she'd probably tell you who you are. But that's the point. That's what this show and what my coaching is about, is to figure out, who are you and who do you want to be? And what makes you who you are? And as I, One of the first things as I work with people is, what is unique about you? Well, this, that, or the other. What makes you different from anybody else? Well, your fingerprint. And you are giving an individual fingerprint to make you an independent person. And if I would have thought 3 years ago that I would be teaching laughter yoga and loving it, actually, I should say, leading laughter yoga and loving every minute of it, I would have said, you're crazy. But I do. And it brings joy to me. And I've been told, oh, that's crazy. I've been told, "Huh, how do you do laughter yoga?" I, you know, I have 2 people who come every week and they're been clients because they have realized that that's exactly what they needed in themselves. And how you elevate your emotions in life is by figuring out who it is you want to be and journaling around it. I am a big person about journaling, or if journaling is not your thing, write a poem, write music, draw a picture. You don't even have to know how to draw these days. You can get on a computer and it can draw for you. There are apps out there that will create pictures that you tell it to create. Don't trust it because it's kind of creepy sometimes, but there's so many things now in this technology world with AI that can do things for you. And that's the other thing. When you're on social media all the time, make sure you are being independent and not becoming codependent on what you see about others. Because that is one of the first things that I work with my clients on, stepping back and figuring out who it is you are and not who it is you want to be because of things that you see or your false beliefs. So, like I say, you can reach out to me, Sandee, Sandee. I should be spelling my name all along. Sandee, Byrd, Byrd. That is Y with you like yellow. .com. That's my website. Right now, we're building a new one that's going to be fresh and vibrant, just like my music on here. Or reach out to me at an email. My rapid response right now is the Sandee Byrd, Sandee, Byrd, coach, like a coach, at gmail.com. But thank you tonight for listening to me. And I hope you are ready to regain your independence and start being who it is you want to be. And it doesn't matter if you are listening to me and you're 80 years old. I have 100-and-a-half-year-old mother-in-law that is very independent and has been for many years. And she claims who she is. And she's pretty adamant about what she believes. And you can't tell her anything different. And next week's show is kind of going to follow through with this generational curses. So you want to listen to that. And that show is probably going to be around a little bit. And my daughter might join on an episode where we're going to dive into generational curses. But next week, I'm going to talk about all those generational curses. A lot of them we don't think about. But a lot of them I've kind of talked a little bit about on here. Body image. Sometimes we're kind of codependent on what we should look like. So thank you again for joining me. This is Sandee Byrd, Sandeebyrd, at Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. And thank you. And like I said, always reach out to me if you want to have a conversation, a connection conversation, because I want you to claim your independence. And you will notice if you claim your independence, all the other things will fall into place.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.